If you can see it, you might as well believe it. 3 words, people. Ever so descriptive. Straight outta Danbury. And that would be me, Malcolm Tent, coming at you live here on the dreaded Facebook with its brand new, extremely annoying, most likely not reliable interface. So, once again, I'm sort of in this position that I was in last week where I can't tell if I'm on live or not. So what I'm going to do is run very quickly into the next room and grab my phone so I can monitor myself on my phone and see what you people have to say, if indeed you can see me at all. Please stand by for 3 seconds. While I'm doing that, be sure to study all the propaganda that I've got on the backdrop. It's very informative, very entertaining. Hold on. Pretend I'm here. I'm sure somebody out there was actually timing that and could say that that was probably more than 3 seconds. I love the internet when it works. When it works. So I'm going to use my telephone to see that it is indeed working. Because all I can see on my screen here is a blue circle just spinning around, spinning around. There's no ability for me to actually interact with you people or see what's going on with the comments. And yeah, I just don't know. I can't even see myself on my phone right now. So please bear with me while I try to take steps to make sure that I am indeed going on live and not just wasting my time and or yours. Well, maybe I am live. Okay, we got some comments. All right, cool. We are here and it is happening. I am seen and I am heard. So I'm just going to have to check in on this thing periodically and see what you guys have to say because I can't monitor it on the screen. All right, enough bourgeois. Let's talk about some of the great stuff I got in the mail. I love a full mailbox. Happiness is a full mailbox, baby. So I checked the mailbox yesterday and it was full with a record. This is from my main dog, Patricio Driftwood. Patricio, thank you so very much for this. The wedding record. From what you told me, this was given away at my main dog, Tony from Rockin' Rex's wedding. It's got some great local stuff like Pumpernickel, Stress Boy, Zopi, I can't pronounce that correctly, and Ted Franco, a previously unknown, unreleased Ted Franco track on this record. That's very cool. If you people out there don't know about Ted Franco, Franco spelled with a K, look it up. If you like the eccentric and the left of center and the downright strange types of people that I love, check out Ted Franco. I guarantee satisfaction. So Patricio, thank you so very much. I am working hard on finding some Ted Franco records for you. I think I might be standing on the verge of getting on a deal to get both of the Ted Franco singles and maybe some other stuff in quantity. So please stay tuned. I will be in touch with you about that. And thank you for that record. Very, very cool. I'm a completist, you know. Got something on the bulletin board to check out. Oh, look at that. I can hear myself twice now. This is awesome. A very interesting item that I came across about 2 years ago, and I've talked about this a little bit on Tent Talks Tunes, and then sort of put it on the back burner because I didn't know exactly what to do with it. But as I said a second ago, the internet is great when it works. The internet is also great when you can make it work for you. And yesterday, I was surveying the madness around me here in TPOS Brain Central Headquarters, where all the boxes are packed and the decisions are made and the executive actions are executed. I was looking around and I said, oh yeah, I forgot about that thing that's been sitting there in the corner for over a year now. I forgot about that thing. What thing was that? That thing, something which is falling apart rapidly as I try to do anything with it. The thing in question was a previously unknown, hitherto undocumented Rolling Stones rarity, an 8-track cartridge version of the Rolling Stones Hot Rocks, which if you know the Rolling Stones and or you know Hot Rocks, that's a different cover, baby. That's a completely different cover from the official version. And if you're really attentive to details, you see that it is on Rolling Stones records and not on Abco London. Same tracks, but it is very clearly not an Abco product. Now, it was my completely not humble, because I know what I'm talking about, not humble opinion that this is a real product of Rolling Stones records. I had never had any doubt in my mind whatsoever. The question was, why would something like this even exist? You know, because apparently the lines of battle were very clearly drawn between Abco records and Rolling Stones records as far as who had control over what in the Rolling Stones catalog. And the material contained on here between those years was very clearly under the control of Abco records. No doubt about it. If you look at any modern Rolling Stones reissue or pressing, it says Abco. That is, of all the, you know, pre Get Your Ya-Ya's Out Stones albums, up to and including Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. And, of course, Hot Rocks. So how on earth could something like this have come about? There's no logical explanation as to why Rolling Stones records would have made their own version of it. And so that's what was so confusing about it. And I reached out to a few people. I wrote to a dude I know who's an editor at Goldmine magazine. And he sort of like challenged me on it. He said, well, I don't think it's real. And he outlined his different reasons as to why he thought it was not real. And that was cool because it forced me to defend my thesis. And I was able to rebut his various points. And we kind of went back and forth, and it just kind of stayed there. And I basically forgot about it for a long time until I remembered, oh yeah, it's sitting over there in the corner and it's been there for over a year. I got to do something about this. So I took the suggestion of my friend who's the Goldmine editor, and I posted it on this group called Steve Hoffman Music Forums, which is a totally like old-fashioned music forum with just discussion threads about all kinds of wacky, wild topics. So I posted it. I posted photos of this thing, and within hours, I had the answers that I was seeking. And those answers were very, very satisfying. The answers I received, in my opinion, not only conclusively prove that this thing is indeed a real, previously undocumented Stones rarity. Not only is it real, I was able to get the information as to why it's real. And apparently, the people at Rolling Stones Records thought that they had the right to manufacture tape versions of this, and Abco had the right to manufacture vinyl versions. So they went ahead and manufactured these. They were going to get ready to sell them, you know, at your local Sears or JCPenney or whatever, and get them on the market. Abco got wind of it, launched an immediate lawsuit, because if you know anything about Abco, they were very good at launching lawsuits. Launched an immediate lawsuit. Rolling Stones Records lost the lawsuit, and as part of the settlement, Abco had to purchase the entire stock of these manufactured 8-tracks at cost and then dispose of them however they wanted to. And the story of how they disposed of them is very, very interesting. They apparently, not even apparently, I know for a damn fact, they took the stock of these 8-tracks, sold them to a blank tape repurposing company. That company bulk erased all of the tapes, so they had no music on them whatsoever, pasted their own labels on top of the Hot Rocks labels, and sold them as blanks. And that's how I discovered them, in a box of factory sealed blank tapes that I bought that I was going to record over. So quite a very interesting story. And I haven't written to my friend at Goldmine yet with this information, but I'm doing that probably tonight. And if all goes well, you'll be reading about that in Goldmine magazine sooner than later. And maybe I can get an idea of just exactly what these Verschlugener things are worth. Hopefully, a lot. I gotta drink a little water to calm myself down at the thought of it. Whew. Getting overheated, baby. Woo! All these hot rocks and hot rarities. Woo! Woo! Excitement. Let's recline in the seat here and take a look at the telephone and see who's reacting. Yes, look at all these people watching. Any comments? Wow, this is great. If I look at this on the phone, I can see all the thumbs up and the hearts. This is pretty neat. I like it. I like it. Maybe I should just go ahead and invest in a good phone and do it this way from now on. Stacy Peak, my fellow record store guy, it is a crazy story. Crazy. As you all know, I specialize. All right, that brings us up to date now. Let's talk about the matter at hand on Tent Talks Tunes. Yous know I go on live every Wednesday and I talk about records and stuff. And it always seems like I'm talking about records from my personal collection. And I always add the disclaimer, this record is not for sale, this record is mine. You know, like I reach over here. If I were going to talk about this great, great album, The Sound of Howard Finster, Man of Visions, I would talk about it and end up by saying this record is mine. It is not for sale. Not for sale. And people have commented on that. They said, dude, bro, man, jerk, why don't you talk to us about something that is for sale for a change? All right. Your complaint is my mandate, baby. You want to talk about some stuff I got for sale? We're going to do that right now. As I said in my description, no obligation to buy, friends. You're not obligated to buy in the slightest bit. This is merely an informational presentation. But if you if you do want to buy, I am happy to help you out because my stuff is good and my prices are awesome. So let's talk about some stuff I got in my inventory. Excuse me again. By the way, the cough seems to be clearing up a little bit. A lot of people asking about that too. Thank you for your concern. I appreciate that. It's still there, but I think it's clearing up a little bit, so that's cool. I'm optimistic. I talked about the Velvet Underground last week and my favorite Velvet Underground records from my personal collection, which are not for sale. This one is for sale. This is a really cool double album that only came out in Europe. It's sort of a condensed version of the first three Velvets records. It's got all the critical tunes from the first three MGM records. Waiting for the Man, Candy Says, White Light, White Heat. Dude, Sister Ray is on here. Venus and Furs, European Sun, Pale Blue Eyes. It's pretty much everything you ever wanted to know about the Velvet Underground on one handy double LP. And it's got a really neat sort of faux Warhol pop art front cover. Some more or less accurate liner notes on the back. And a kind of neat gatefold with some faux Warhol pop art in it. As you can see, it's been around the block a few times. It's not in super minty, fresh condition. The records have definitely been played, but I listened to this whole thing from start to finish, and it sounds fine. There is sonically nothing wrong with this record at all. And it's just a really good pocket intro to the Velvets. If you just wanted to find out a little bit about them, you don't want to spend the bucks to get each of the first 3 albums, I'm going to say right now, this is a great way to start. Got somebody in your life who you want to turn on to the Velvet Underground? This, my friends, is the Reader's Digest extremely cheap way to do it. You might ask, Malcolm Tent, you old creep, how much is this double album that never came out in the US of A, which, yes, is not in mint condition but does play fine? How much is it? You say it's a cheap, affordable intro to the wacky, wonderful world of the Velvet Underground? How affordable is it? $10. $10 plus shipping takes it. That's it. $10. Cheap. Cheap. First person to respond, and I can't see your comments live, but I can look at them later. The first person to respond positively who wants it gets it. $10 plus shipping. I played it myself. Sounds fine. See? There you go. A story right off the bat with a record to back it up, and it is for sale. I hope that makes you people happy. I really, really do. Because making people happy is my business. Velvet Underground. And if you want to see exactly what I am referring to as far as last week's episode goes, go to my YouTube channel and you will see the Velvet Underground archived. The Velvet Underground episode of Tent Talks Tunes is archived. And while you're there on YouTube, go to the Anti-Scene page, which I, to use the modern day parlance, curate. Go there and subscribe too, because we, Anti-Scene, are one kick-ass band. And you need what Anti-Scene has got. And that's it. All right. Now this is a very interesting story for yours truly. I got some records for sale by an artist who I genuinely don't like. I really don't like this next dude. Real intense dislike for this next dude. But before I venture into the story of who this guy is and why I don't like him, let's see who's watching what. Oh, look at all these people. Hey, my main dog, Brian Gerosa, my friendliest competitor, Brian Gerosa from Gerosa Records is watching right now. If you guys are in Brookfield, Connecticut, go to Federal Road and check in and say hello to the various Gerosas who are there behind the counter. Good people, good friends, good competitors. I like them. So yeah, Brian Gerosa, I'll bet you have an opinion on this. This is an artist who I don't like. I don't like this dude at all. I never have. Ever. Never liked him. But since the human condition is absolutely, utterly perverse, it's kind of appropriately perverse that I'm very interested in this dude. I'm fascinated by this dude's story and his background and his history. I just hate his music. I hate his music. When I'm hard at work here in Brain Central headquarters of Trash American Style / TPOS, I spend a lot of time cleaning records with an old t-shirt. You know, for example, you saw my post about the Nirvana concert I videotaped 30 years ago. You know, I bought the Nirvana t-shirt at the concert, wore it to death, and now I've cut it up into little pieces and I clean records with it. Haha, JK. JK. But I do have plenty of old t-shirts that I cut up and I clean records with. So I'm cleaning records by this guy, and I have to take the record out the sleeve, and I have to take the sleeve out the jacket, and the lyrics are there, and I start reading the lyrics, and I'm like, man, these are really good lyrics. These are seriously great lyrics. I can read this dude's lyrics off of a printed page for days. Just please, for God's sake, don't make me listen to his music. Please. In my perverseness, I have studied this dude's story a lot because it's a hell of a story. This guy probably played 2,000 dive bars and toilets before he even got a record contract. And then even after he got the record contract, he probably played another 1,000 dive bars and toilets and ballrooms and anywhere before he finally hit it big. But when he hit it big, he hit it big. One reason why I don't like him, I'm automatically extremely distrustful of mainstream culture. And guess what? I'm usually right about that too. In fact, I'm going to say I'm always right about that. You don't have to agree, but I know I'm always right. So who is this nudnik who drives me bats, but who writes really great lyrics and has one heck of a backstory? I, of course, refer to the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen. And my good pal Karen Wydeen. Karen, if you're watching, we've had this discussion. Cannot stand this guy's music. It is so obvious. And if you listen to his chord changes and the way he writes songs and the way the songs flow and the structures, you'll know what I mean when I say obvious. His stuff is so effing obvious, the way it's written and performed. Which is why he's a trillionaire and I'm here trying to sell records on Facebook. But whatever. Maybe he's got peace of mind. I got peace of mind for sure, baby. Straight outta Danbury. No doubt. I'm like Gwen Stefani, baby. No doubt. So in my frenzied pursuit of knowledge about this guy whose music I can't stand, but whose backstory I find to be very interesting and whose lyrics I dig, I've learned about his early career before he was Bruce Springsteen and the fact that, yeah, he had a work ethic that just was unstoppable. I mean, incredible to see how many shows this guy played and how many songs he wrote and just how completely consistent and dedicated to his vision he was. I mean, this dude, you know, all power to him. He did indeed pay the cost to be the boss. I'm not going to argue with that at all. Just please don't make me listen to his music. Oh my God, please don't. Just please, please. Anyway, so I got some of his inventory in my store. And the irony for the longest time is in my store. And actually, to this day, I've got this policy. Basically, if I don't like it, I won't sell it. And if I can't at least get behind it philosophically, or I don't have a personal interest in it, I ain't going to sell it because I don't want to waste my time. But I am fascinated by this guy's story, and that's why I've got this vintage double LP called Steel Mill, which is recorded in 1970, and it features, I believe, one of his very first bands, Steel Mill. And the fact that this guy had a consistent set of players that he stayed with almost from the very beginning, more or less to the present day, makes the story even more interesting. He did not discard bands left, right, and center. He always had this core of genuine New Jersey guys who he played music with and created with. And so the genesis of the E Street Band is found in this group Steel Mill. And this double LP, which was recorded in 1970, you know, even I know enough that songs like Send That Boy to Jail and Going Back to Georgia, The Wind and the Rain, Garden State Parkway Blues, Resurrection. I don't think a single song on this record ever appeared on an official Bruce Springsteen record. So it's a fascinating document, you know, of somebody who was like really, really trying extremely hard to make it. It's a formative document, and it's not a bad recording. It's a soundboard recording. It's in stereo, fairly low gen, very listenable, and for people who are scholars of this kind of thing, or actually fans of this dude, I think it's pretty critical. So I got it. It's here. The story behind it is fascinating. The fact that this tape was even made, it's like, who would have made a tape of this struggling guy who could only play in two places, New Jersey and Virginia? That's where his audience was at the time, New Jersey and Virginia. Somebody cared enough to roll tape and document this entire performance. That alone fascinates me. The fact that such a document even exists of somebody who had virtually no fame, no cachet, no brand recognition whatsoever, but somebody took the time to record it and to make it. And then, of course, later, after he got famous, make a double LP of it. But I got it. If you're interested, hit me up, because it is for sale. Same deal with this one, which was recorded a year later in 1971 with what was at the time known as the Bruce Springsteen Band. More or less the same group of players, but they had morphed a little bit. And this is a really interesting document, too, because this was definitely a fan recording from Richmond, Virginia, 1971, recorded in a gymnasium. It sounds like it was recorded in a gymnasium toward the back. And it's really funny because they open up with Got My Mojo Working, you know, the classical blues song. They do Got My Mojo Working. They get the crowd up and running, you know, the crowd's clapping along and cheering, and the song ends, and yay! And then Bruce Springsteen steps up to the mic and says, all right, here's a song right now called Living Rock and Roll. Basically. And they do the song, and it doesn't get nearly the pop that Got My Mojo Working got. And if you perform and you've been on stage, you know that feeling. When you announce the song, or you play the song, and you're looking for a response, you really want someone to respond, but they're not quite doing it. There's nothing like that void, thankfully. And you get to hear it. You actually get to hear it on this document. Kind of rough and raw sounding, but fascinating nonetheless. I love the stories behind these. And to answer your query, yes, it is for sale. Yes, you can buy it from me. $10. $10. Cheap. Cheap. People say, why do you sell your records so cheap? I say, because I am running a record store, not a museum. Does this look like a museum to you? It's not a museum. I got veterinarian bills to pay. I got water filters to replace. I got to pay all my yes men and all my sycophants. I'm sure you've seen them. They trail me wherever I go, whenever I'm in public, and a whole army of people saying, yes, Mr. Tent. Oh, good idea, Malcolm. Oh, wow, that was brilliant. Oh, I got to write this down, what you said. I pay those guys a lot of damn money, so without the money, I don't have them, and without them, I have nothing. Now, just in case you think this is all fol-de-rol, I also give Bruce Springsteen a lot of credit because he saw the market for records like this and produced his own version, the infamous Live 1975 to 85 boxed set. See, now that's smart. Instead of just griping about the boots, he went ahead and produced his own extremely massive official 5-album boxed set. And what do you know? I got a sealed copy of it, baby. Sealed. Unopened. This is an original 1985 box. Sealed with a peel. You know that the contents in there are minty fresh. This thing is basically a time capsule. Factory sealed original. 5 LP box set. Is it for sale? Yes, it's for sale. No, it's not $10. But I'm sure we can figure something out. Got it on LP. How about cassette? You want it on cassette? Factory sealed original cassette boxed set. Look at that tight shrink wrap on that mofo. T-I-T-E. Tight. Yes, it is for sale. Contact me directly. I'll be very happy to sell it to you, along with the Bruce Springsteen records I just talked about, along with any number of other Bruce Springsteen records I have in my inventory. A toast to the very marketable and sellable Bruce Springsteen, whose music I hate. Let's take a look at what everybody's got to say on my telephone. Oh boy, look at all these people, man. BB Gun is there. Oh, look at all these thumbs up and hearts. This is really cool. This is sort of like, this is kind of like I don't really need an army of yes men. I can get hearts and flowers and stuff. I like this. This is all right. I'm going to keep doing this. This is great. All right. Now, more stories, more vinyl. The 1990s, baby. Excuse me. Who out there remembers the 90s? Ah, check it out. Who out there remembers the 90s? Give me a thumbs up. Who out there remembers the 90s? Let's see how this thing works. Give me a thumbs up. Jay Gray says, can we stop talking about the boss now? It's done. We're done. I want to see some thumbs up. I want to see what the lag time is. Oh, wow. There we go. Oh, here they come. Okay, there's about a 15-20 second gap. Interesting. Thank you guys for helping me with this internet research thing. This is fascinating. All right, so the 90s. Well, look at them all, man. Tink Tink says he misses the 90s. The 90s were a very good decade for music. Basically, every decade is a good decade for music if you look hard enough. And the 90s just happened to have a real proliferation of bands because being in a band was very hip and trendy, and it was the thing to do. I've talked about that, which you can find on my YouTube channel, which you really should subscribe to. The 90s was also a very weird time because that is when the major labels were doing their absolute dead level best to kill vinyl as a marketable format. They really went out of their way to remove vinyl from the marketplace. The reason being that it wasn't as profitable as CDs were. It's the only reason. Vinyl was, and as we all know very well now in the 21st century, still is profitable. Vinyl simply wasn't as profitable as CDs. So the major labels really, and I speak from experience, having been on that side of the record counter, having to deal with these jerk-off major labels for years, even though I stopped selling their shit in the late 80s, they were still always a presence. They were still always there, and they affected my business one way or another. So I was always very acutely aware of the major labels, whom I still to this day give a hearty yuck foo to. That's my message to the major labels right there. You can spread that around all you want. They tried to kill vinyl, but they couldn't do it. One reason being is that our friends over in Europe would not let it go. The Europeans refused to let vinyl go. So in the 90s, there was a lot of stuff in print on vinyl that you could not get in the States. And two examples of that are from the sort of the yin and the yang of one of my very favorite bands in the entire known universe. I'm of course referring to the one, the only, the almighty Husker Du. Let's raise our jugs high and drink to Husker Du. People ask me sometimes, Malcolm Tent, who are your favorite bands? Who are your favorite bands? My friends, that list is amorphous to the max. It is constantly changing, ever evolving. You could ask me now, and I could name 5 or 6. You could ask me in 15 minutes. I might name another 5 or 6, of which only 3 would be consistent. My top 3 favorite bands of all time are Etched in Stone, Unchanging, Fixed, Unmoving, and Unrelenting. One of my top 3 favorite bands. Notice the placement of the finger. It's not the major label. It's like that. This is sort of a veiled reference to my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson had a way of pointing at us like that. And Mr. Nelson was a big dude. He was like very intimidating. And when he pointed at you with his middle finger always, you knew he meant business. So, in the spirit of Mr. Nelson from the 6th grade, top 3 all-time favorite bands, Husker Du. I don't even have words. So, Husker Du, as we all know, broke up in 1987. And by the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, the yin and the yang of Husker Du had their solo careers going. So which one was yin and which one was yang? I'm going to say that the yin of Husker Du was Bob Mould. And even though you could find the CD singles of his band everywhere, you never, ever, ever saw the vinyl 12-inch singles by his band Sugar. So this is a really cool European pressing on the Creation label of a record that is extremely common on CD single, but not very common on 12-inch vinyl. In fact, it's pretty hard to find on 12-inch vinyl. A good idea is indeed a good idea. The Sugar album, Copper Blue, monumental. That's one of those albums for the ages. And to hear a good idea pressed on vinyl at 45 RPM with a hot, hot cut, oh man, if it doesn't make you step back a little bit, you ain't got ears, baby. This is a sonic treat to my ear. A good idea on the A side, and then 3 non-album tracks on the B side. You've got Where Diamonds Are Halos, a David Barbie composition. David Barbie being the sort of George Harrison of Sugar. I think he should have gotten more of his songs on their albums. Just saying. A great live version of Slick from the album, and their version of Speedy Keen's Armonia, City in the Sky, which you might know from The Who and their version on The Who Sell Out. This is what an EP is all about. A strong A side off of the album and 3 non-album B sides. This, my friends, is cool. 90s vinyl, hard to find on 12-inch single. This is a brand new, unplayed store stock copy. These things didn't come factory sealed. Like imports very, very rarely came factory sealed. So we, in the supply side, would have to put them in our own bags and seal them up with tape. And this has been a sealed with tape copy that's been in storage since the mid-90s. And it's here. It's got a great story behind it. It's the yin of one of my favorite bands of all time, one of my top 3. And guess what? I'm not just talking about it. I'm looking to sell it. You, the educated consumer, because I just gave you one heck of an education, are welcome to buy it. Hit me up. I want to sell you one. Hit me up. I'm shameless about it now. The funny thing is I've been in this business now since 1986 full-time, and for a little while part-time before that. I hate selling. I really honestly do. I don't like selling. I feel like a total jerk when I sell records. I prefer to think of myself as a conduit. You know, what I like to do is go out in person at a record fair or a swap meet or a punk rock show or something and just put the stuff out and let people come to it. That's the way I like to do it. That's the way I did it with my store. I hardly ever advertised for years. I just opened the door and let people come. So to me, it's really weird to be actively working this and shilling it and hyping it. But you guys asked. You guys asked. Okay, so who is the yang of Husker Du? The yang, of course, is Grant Hart and his band, the Nova Mob. Here's another one of those things. The CD single is not as common as the Sugar CD singles, but it's a lot more common than the 12-inch vinyl. Way more common than the 12-inch vinyl. Never issued in the U.S. I don't know if the CD singles were even issued in the U.S. either, because he was on Rough Trade, or I should say Nova Mob was on Rough Trade at the time, and Rough Trade had very little U.S. market presence during that era. I know there was a U.S. pressing of the album, but I don't think the singles actually came out domestically. This one certainly didn't. So UK pressing of the Nova Mob, Admiral of the Sea. This is Grant Hart, baby. We talked about Bob Mould. Here's Grant Hart. Anybody who's known me for more than 12 minutes know where my loyalties lie. Yes, I love Bob. Yes, I love Sugar. But I'm a Grant Hart man. From sunrise to sunset, and then from sunset to sunrise. It's all about the Grant for me. A toast to Grant. In whatever creative paradise you are now in, I drink water to you. Grant took a very interesting tack on this one. He presented a bunch of alternate mixes. On the A side, you've got Admiral of the Sea, 2 different mixes. On the B side, you've got a single mix of the song Last Days of Pompeii, an instrumental mix of Getaway in Time, and then his own live cover version of the song, I Just Want to Make Love to You. Another classic blues song, done by Grant Hart, Tom Merkel, and Michael Crago, the Nova Mob. And the thing about Grant, excuse me, that really sort of kills me but kind of endears me to him is that he was not like Bob Mould at all. Bob Mould always was acutely aware of his spot in the marketplace and was always laser-like focused on the goal, on the big prize. Grant just wanted to do his thing, whatever it was. And so he always had this kind of adversarial relationship with record labels and booking agents and tour mates and band members and all that. Legendary stories. So Nova Mob, or Grant himself, never took off like Bob Mould or Sugar did. But dang it, I love Grant. Just love Grant. And so here it is, a somewhat hard to find UK 12-inch single from the era when vinyl was being stamped out actively by a guy who really shot himself in the foot as much as he possibly could. I got it. It's for sale. Message me. It could be yours because the price is right. Let's check some comments here and see who's got some things to do. Hey, Bones. Excuse me. Pardon me. I've got 2 lead singers of 2 of my favorite bands tuned in right now. We got Bones from 76% Uncertain and Mike Lesser from the Gay Cowboys in Bondage are watching right now. And not only that, my honorable ancestor, Prehistoric John from Anti-Scene is tuned in. I want you guys to say hello to all of these people. Giants, all. Every single one of them. Glad to have you guys on board. Thank you so much for listening to me yip, yap, yammer, and yelp. All right, I haven't worn out my welcome yet, apparently, so I'm going to talk about a couple more, maybe a few. I mentioned this one before. As you may or may not know, this guy right here, Malcolm Tent, only follows one sport. One sport. The sport of kings. The sport of queens. The sport of all in-betweens. The sport that's got to be seen. I'm talking about professional wrestling. Not sports entertainment. Professional wrestling. There's a big difference. Don't go around talking that sports entertainment jive to me. I don't want to hear it. Professional wrestling ties in very neatly with my love for music and records. Because I got a big stack of sealed vinyl albums by the Exotic Adrian Street. The Exotic Adrian Street and the Pile Drivers, Shake, Wrestle, and Roll. You need this record. You need this record more than you might think. Even if you don't think you need it, you need it. I got it. Did I mention how low my prices are? $10. $10 plus shipping will get you the Exotic Adrian Street. Note the label it's on. It's on Burger Records, the disgraced, canceled Burger Records. I doubt very much that they're going to be repressing this anytime soon, if ever, because they don't exist anymore. But I got them. If you love wrestling, and you love culture, and you love rock and roll, and if you love me, you will want to purchase this. $10 plus shipping. Sealed, original. Just like those Bruce Springsteen box sets I showed you. Sealed and real. What a deal. Contact me. Don't be a slacker. You need it. I got it. Two more. And then I'm going home, which is actually, well, it's right here. Two more, and I'm staying home. Talked about this band before. I love this band. And unlike the last time I talked about them, I've got a record for sale by them. This is a band that nobody knows about, but everybody should know about. And you guys, you know your stuff. So I'll bet someone's going to chime in who knows this band and loves them as much as I do. I'm talking about the Bus Boys. Their first album, Minimum Wage Rock and Roll. The Bus Boys. Probably looking up video clips of them on YouTube would be a lot easier than me trying to explain them. Hell of a band. The key, if you're going to look them up, is to not look up the later stuff they did, because Eddie Murphy hooked up with them and really tried to give them a push. He really tried to get them over, and he succeeded to a certain degree. But by the time Eddie Murphy hooked up with the Bus Boys, they had dumbed themselves down considerably. This album, first album, this stuff is wicked, sharp, funny. The basic premise, a bunch of black dudes playing rock and roll. Right? Seems kind of simple, but this is in the era before Living Color, you see. This was in 1981, when this was like a really alien concept. So these guys come out on the scene playing no frill, straight ahead, absolute riff-a-rama, hook-filled rock and roll. I mean, the hooks and the riffs just don't stop with these guys. Coupled with lyrics that are like so cutting and so biting, yet at the same time so funny. They got a song called There Goes the Neighborhood about gentrification. You know, you always hear about, well, there goes the neighborhood, but you never hear about, well, there goes the neighborhood when the white people start moving in. That's what the Bus Boys write about. They've got a song called KKK. I want to be in an American band. I want to join the Ku Klux Klan. Play in a rock and roll band. I mean, that frightened people. What radio programmer on FM radio is going to stick his neck out and play that on the radio? The answer was none of them, which is why this album just came and went. This is the promo version. Now, you will see the regular version with this cover art on it. It's fairly common, and it's usually fairly cheap. And in fact, my rare collectible promo version of it is cheap. It's very inexpensive. $8 takes it. $8 plus shipping, and it's yours. You get the collectible variant of the first Bus Boys record. My friends and even my enemies, I'm here to tell you, the early Bus Boys kick ass, both in the sense of humor department and in the songwriting department. If I had anything to say about it, these dudes would have been Living Color, because they were funnier, they were smarter, and they were better. If you like Living Color, more power to you. I am not going to argue. Everybody's taste is different. And I do give Living Color a lot of credit for actually breaking the color barrier as a rock and roll band. They were the first ones to actually do it. So they get props for that. I just can't stand their music. But the Busboys, man, mega thumbs up to the Busboys. Malcolm Tent recommended. Even if you don't want to buy it, do yourself a favor and look up the early Busboys. Look up their appearance on American Bandstand. Look up their appearance on Fridays, I should say. And if there's audio anywhere of them when they were on the King Biscuit Flower Hour, listen to it. If you love intelligent, absolutely contagious riff-a-rama rock and roll, the Busboys will scratch your itch. Ooh, that annoying cough of mine must be getting better. I've made it throughout the entire episode of Tent Talks Tunes with a couple of coughs, but hardly not endangering my lungs falling out. What a nice thing. I might have to stop now though, because I don't want to endanger my larynx or my lungs anymore. And oh, look at all you people watching. Yay, I'm going to check you guys out. We're going to be seeing what the dialogue has to offer after I sign off. I'll be talking to everybody. If you want to message me about any of these records or any other records for that matter, because I got literally, I'm not joking, I got thousands of them. I am completely overstocked right now because opportunities to sell in the field have been very limited for the past over a year and a half. So, you know, I've got these records and I'm still bringing them in because if somebody says they want to sell me a collection, obviously I have to bring it in. I mean, it's foolish to say no. So I'm still bringing in stuff and it's kind of piling up. Mike Muldoon, if you're still watching there, my answer is yes, by the way, Mike Muldoon. Talk to me, Mike. I want the records. I want them. Talk to me, Mike. So yeah, I got so much stuff you wouldn't even believe it. If you got a want list, hit me. Hit me. If you want to do a video conference, I'll take you into where I've got the stuff stored. And I'll go through the stash with you. That photo that I posted on Facebook, that is a picture of what I have. Some of it. We'll go through it. I've done it with people. It's a lot of fun. So make like James Brown and hit me. So in summation, I just want to bring your attention once again to my YouTube channel. Please check it out. Subscribe. The Anti-Scene YouTube channel. Please check it out. Please subscribe. If you have the ability to get to Gastonia, North Carolina on October 22nd, which is a Friday. Did I get that right? Let's see if I got that right. Let's see if my memory skills are less deteriorated than I thought they were. October 22nd, my God, I was right. October 22nd, Gastonia, North Carolina at Freeman's Pub. Yes, indeed, the almighty Anti-Scene. We're going to trod the boards one more time. We're going to rock hard. Got the set list last night. It's a good one. It's a barn burner. And all I will say is that since the show is close to Halloween, you can expect a certain thematic consistency in the set we're going to play. So it's going to rock. I'm looking forward to it. October 22nd, Freeman's Pub, Gastonia. You see four guys who look a lot like this. But don't let that scare you away. We're actually very friendly and very approachable. I promise. Promise. And, yeah. My record label on Discogs and eBay. And little old me. Thank everybody, all of you, for tuning in. And, bearing witness to my technical difficulties and listening to my nonstop stream of hype. I do look forward to seeing you guys out there in the real world, hopefully sooner than later. But barring that, Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. I will be back in about 167 hours. So until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tent saying so long from the Nutmeg State.